Dave, it's good to
What's
see you.
up?
Good, good. I'm really glad that you're here with me and Destino. I really wanted to cover kind of your experience as a writer on sitcoms. Would you be able to start with your name and what you do?
Yeah, I'm Dave Pilson. I'm a TV writer. My most recent gig, I was exec story editor. So yeah, been working my way up the ranks on the writing side. Really happy to be here to talk with you. I've known you for, God, how long have we known each other? It's been like
Oh, 15 years. I don't
15
know,
years.
something like
Yeah,
that.
amazing.
Yeah. But I really wanted to zero in on your experience on Bob Hart's Abishola. So would you be able to tell me a little bit of how that was for you, like for say like in day one?
Yeah, so season one, actually started as a writer's assistant on that show, which was great. Really good experience. I had been writer's PAing for a while before that. I'd never kind of like been behind the keys, typing in the room.
Yeah.
And that was amazing, like really getting like feet wet, being in the room basically all day, every day. Um, typing when Chuck's in the room too, which can be stressful, but you got to be, you learn a lot too really quickly. And yeah, like after season one, actually by the end of season one, COVID happened, so we got cut short. And then season two of Bob Hart's Abishola, we ended up going on Zoom. So I was
Right.
still writer's assistant on the show when we were on Zoom, but it was kind of interesting. Like it kind of changed the way kind of writers' rooms work in a way. Like, everyone's on screen, everyone's sort of like able to participate in a way. I mean, at least that's how the room was for us. And by the end of season two, I got a story credit and then I got staffed season three. But that was still in the Zoom world. That was all
Yeah.
virtual. And that was a really cool but tough way to sort of like get staffed and be a writer because it's not like the real
No.
true experience, at least what I was used to when I was an assistant on those shows before. So it was cool. It was a learning curve to do it on Zoom. But it was also freeing just to focus on the writing and really like, not have any other distractions basically besides what we were trying to break story wise. So that was cool.
Yeah, that's such a unique experience and also something that you were not like told to prepare for.
No, definitely not. Yeah, we that was on the fly. I mean, even the first season when we were writers assistants, just having to like create that system of how this would work, get the
Yeah.
Slack going, make sure all the notes were getting sent out. But I honestly think it really helped because a lot of the times in the kind of like in the writer's room, you're getting notes, you're having thoughts, but you're not getting it all sent to you. You're not absorbing it in the same way. And so it would just
Right.
become like an every night we'd have notes sent out. We'd really like be able to pull them up. We'd be able to, have virtual notes on scripts from the showrunners. So
Yeah.
it was a cool process. And I think by like halfway through season three, when I was staff writer, I started really to enjoy that Zoom writing world. I know some people don't love that, but I liked it at the time. But
Yeah.
by season four, we started going in every so often, a little bit of a hybrid. So we'd go on set every so often. We kind of had a rotation because you still couldn't have too many people on set even then.
True.
But by the last season, yeah, we were back in the office. We were on set, helping punch jokes, and we had show night. Actually, so the show had been a hybrid with no live audience at the
Yeah.
beginning. And for my where I started on Mike and Molly as an assistant, like I was so used to those live shows. Like that's where like we used to hang out, during the
Right.
tapings. And so I missed that. And we got to do that season five. We got to have the audience taping and being on the writer's side of that was really cool, being able to punch jokes on the fly, see how the audience is reacting to story and to jokes was just great. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a different style. And like you said, luckily you got to experience both sides, so that's very
Yeah.
cool. Well, what would you say is one of your proudest episodes that you got to collaborate on?
Yeah, I think I was thinking about that. I think last season of the show, there's a really cool episode we did where Dele goes to New York to audition to be a dancer for dance school. And yeah, I was like, I was kind of running the story room at the time at that part of the show. We'd rotate doing that, but for a while I was doing it. And myself and another writer, Opie, we broke the story together, and it was just very like felt very organic the way it came
Yeah.
about. we sent the outline to the showrunners at the time, and they both were like, "Yeah, this works." And I think it went to Chuck, and he liked it a lot too. So it was one of those ones that just kind of was organic, and by the end product is very similar to what we broke in the room on that outline. So it was
Yeah.
just a very cool experience. And it was really fun to like see the process and see it go to that point. Because so many times, the first outline, nothing's the same, and that's part of the process. It's just very rare for that to happen. So that was cool. It felt like a little bit of ownership of that episode, um, at least from the story standpoint. So that was fun.
Yeah, you're right because as far as you're concerned, there's like a lot of things that have to go right in order to get that, let's say, like on camera. So
Yeah.
luckily for you in that episode, it really did live up to what you wanted to be like.
Yeah, and then it's like taking a basketball and shooting it over your shoulder and it going in the net behind you. It's like that only happens once.
Yeah.
So like every episode after that, there's 50 versions of it, and you're trying to chase the rush of getting that shot in. But that's the fun of it too. So
Well, sticking to Bob Hart Abishola, what is one of the challenging things that you would say being part of a show like Bob Hart's?
yeah, I mean, I think I was really fortunate that it's such a good staff on that show. All the writers are amazing, great people, no bad sort of like vibes or anything like that. So, um,
That's important.
yeah, it's huge for these kind of rooms, especially these comedy rooms where you want it to be a safe space for you to pitch jokes and whatnot. I do think sometimes like being a new was I think to answer your question, like being a new writer at the time, especially season 3 and 4, just like
Yeah,
finding the confidence to pitch a joke and know if it doesn't hit perfectly, it's not the end of the world, because
sure.
and then sometimes you get a little fearful. You're like, if I pitch this and it doesn't go well,
Yeah.
man, am I gonna look stupid? And then, you kind of stop yourself from pitching. So just kind of have that confidence, and that builds over time too. I think to go with my point, like having a room full of people you trust and like allows you to do that. So that was what was special about that
Yeah,
show.
and I mean that brings me to the next thing, which is we got, like you said, we got started on Mike and Molly, and a lot of that crew came into the Bob Hart
Yeah.
team. So that was very cool that you've been able to come up with these people your whole journey.
It's amazing. I think it's super rare that, in the Chuck Lorre universe over there that people are able to sort of work their way up from PA
Yeah,
to writer, and from your story too, working your way up to be the graphic designer on all these shows.
yeah,
I think it's really like it was really cool, and I think it all comes down to like the people were tight. We've all been tight. We've all known each other for a long time, and I think that comes from working on these multicams where it's like a 10-month was at least a 10-month out of the year job. You
yeah,
go in every day, you'd see each other every day, and it felt like, and you knew for the most part you were going to be coming back the next year. So you like let yourself get close to people and actually form
true.
friendships. And I hope that I know it still exists in some way in some shows, but man, that those days are not, it's not the same. So I'm glad we got to experience that.
Yeah, what would you say is one of the things that made you stand out as a PA that wanted to be a writer? What made you connect to everybody else so much?
That's a good question. I think I always knew I wanted to write, even when I was an office PA.
Yeah,
I think I just like made that clear to people as much as I could. And I told, really supportive like production coordinators at the time, and I told them, hey, I want to be a writer, and they fought for me to become the writer's PA at one point during the Mike and Molly years, and I was able to do that. And then from there, just like being open to learning, joking around, having a good attitude about going to get lunches every day,
yeah,
which I didn't really care. I kind of liked it because I was working on my own stuff at the time. I
yes.
would go out, drive into lunch would be a good time for me to think about what I wanted to do with my projects. So I just I just used it as an opportunity to learn about what it's like to work in a writer's room
Mhm.
and what that process is. And at the same time, while you're getting lunch and going to the grocery store, like you can still use your brain to do other stuff.
Yeah.
So I found having a good attitude about that was helpful for sure.
Yeah,
Uh,
and like you said, I mean, we spend a lot of time together. So just the fact that you're able to be yourself and you're somebody that we can all get along with, it plays a part of wanting to give you that shot or wanting you to stick around and be a part of the team.
I think that's a yeah. I mean, I would say, I mean, same for you. I think it just comes down to like, are you patient? Are you good to like a good person to be around
Yeah.
in a genuine way? Like you're not faking it. Like you just, you just want to be there and learn and absorb
Mhm.
and, make connections, which is what everybody wants to do. Um, and then yeah, it's like about having a good at like if someone in a position of power in these kind of work environments sees you
Yeah.
smiling doing a job that they know is not fun, like
Yeah.
really, but at least you have a good attitude. You're like, I'm working on a TV show. This is amazing. I think that goes a long way. You kind of pay into it a little bit. So I think that's a great, I think it's a good thing for like people to think about when they get into these jobs because I've known people who've done these jobs and they were impatient or they kind of like got burnt out from doing it. And I totally
Sure.
understand that, but I think it comes down to like, man, just like hanging in there with a good attitude.
Yeah, it's really about having that patience and also not to give yourself this timeline of at a certain point I need to be have
Yeah.
reached this thing because that's not really how things work and everybody's story is different. So
Yes.
I also wanted to invite you to talk to me because I remember during that time you sold a project to Amazon. So are you able to touch
Yeah.
a little bit about that process and that journey?
Yeah, so this is like was crazy. Like when I became the writer's PA on Mike and Molly, I had gotten staffed. I was writing like sci-fi drama stuff at the time. I was into like
I
Lost and
remember.
those kinds of shows. And I got staffed and I sold a show to Amazon and it's back when they were buying like everything because they were a new streaming service and they were like, we just have to spend money and see what sticks. But it was such a cool process. Got to pitch to the creative execs there, work with production companies to develop it. And at the time, I remember going to Al Higgins, who was the showrunner on Mike and Molly, and just kind of telling him the situation. And I was nervous because I was like, I
Right.
know it's going to mean I have to take meetings and take calls and be available for this other thing. And I really want to do this writer's PA job because I believe that this is a track that can really help me get staffed, and I want to learn here, and I love working on the show. And he was so supportive and so awesome and was like, look, as long as you're doing your job as a writer's PA, you can go ahead and do what you need to do for this stuff. And that was great. So like those years on Mike and Molly, I sold that show and I was like out pitching. I would take general meetings. I was yeah, I was doing a lot. And then when Mike and Molly ended, I kind of focused for like a year on trying to sell more stuff. And I realized the realities of like the grind of that without having any real credits. Um, because you sell a show, but like you still haven't, you don't have like a produced credit to your name, right? So it's
Right.
still harder to convince people to buy your other projects and other ideas. So around that time, I was just like, you know what? I want to get back. I feel like I'm out of the game a little bit, and I'm fine. Like I had no ego about it. I was like, I'll go back and be a writer's PA again. I really
Sure.
don't care. So I ended up going back to the Chuck world on Kaminsky Method,
Okay.
and that's how I kind of get back in there. And then yeah, and then Bob Hart's Abishola started, and I stayed there, and yeah, and I've always been developing my own stuff, and I started shifting to comedy over those years too, anyway, because I realized how much more I enjoyed it, like
Yeah.
writing it, the lifestyle and everything. So it ended up really working out. It's just funny how full circle it got because I really never thought I would be writing multicam sitcoms. That wasn't what I was doing at that
Right.
time, but I love it. I'm glad that I learned in that world, and I'm glad that I ended up getting staff to do it, so that
No,
was
I'm
that.
really glad. I mean, that's really cool that you decided to, regardless of what the position was, to just get back into that environment because
Yeah.
that really means a lot to get like your confidence and also, like you said, to find out what really like inspires you to keep writing.
Yeah, exactly. I think I realized getting back in, I almost like knew it. I was like, I got to get back into the comedy world. I actually had PA'd on a drama right before Kaminsky Method.
Yeah.
Great people, cool show. I really liked the room. I liked the vibe of it, but I was like, having worked on Mike and Molly all those years in those writers' offices, it just didn't have the same spark that I was like, I was
Yeah.
just sparked to the comedy again. And that's not to say I'll never do drama because I love good, cool dramas. But yeah, at that time I was just I like knew I needed to go back to that world. Something inside me was like, this is where you're supposed to be right now, you know? So
Well, going back to the pitching element of your experience, what was one of the things that was really important that you had to be able to sell that project?
yeah, we had I think the key to that project was it had already kind of been a partnership with a production company, like a pod, that had kind of connections to studios. So there was a kind of like a big name, not a huge name producer, but a pretty big name producer attached to it that gave
Okay.
it some street cred, I guess, enough to like have Amazon be like, yeah, we believe in this thing. So I think it's like all the connections. It's all, you know, at the end of the day, kind of packaging and the sort of the auspices behind the project really help. So
Yeah.
I think like, you know, anybody who's out there trying to sell a project or get into development, just know it's going to take collaboration and partnerships and whatnot. Like
Right.
you can't really do it alone if you don't, you know, if you're not like the big name, right? So,
Of course.
but they're out there looking for the people that don't, you know, have the tons of experience but have the really cool idea. That's how it's always been. So.
In between projects, what do you do to keep yourself kind of like keeping those muscles working?
That's such a good question. No, I've been writing a multicam spec. I've been developing an animated comedy. I've been developing a single cam. So like honestly, just kind of throwing as many darts as you can at the board, stuff
Yeah.
that you are passionate about and like and believe in. And then it's kind of easy to get up and do the work, like if you're into the idea. I would say like also like writing a feature. I have a few ideas that I need to get into because I feel like that's another area of, you know, between staffing jobs, writers have the ability to sell a feature and not have to worry about how it's produced. You know, just focus on the writing of it. So there's a couple avenues. I think most writers I know right now who aren't staffed, and that there's a lot of us, you know, who are between those shows,
Yeah.
are just focusing on development and hoping that, you know, the industry is getting back to buying a lot of cool stuff, which I think it's slowly, from what I'm hearing, slowly getting back to it a little bit. So.
When you are staffed on a show, what are the things that you look for, or what are the motivations that inspire you to kind of bring stuff to the table on that show?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think I try to look at like personal experiences, personal stories.
Yeah.
You know, Bob Hart's Savvy Show was such a show about family. So just like universal stories about family. Like, you know, I don't come from a Nigerian family, but I come from a East Coast Jewish family. And you know what? There's a lot of overlap between the neurotic sides of both cultures. So I totally, you know, you try to mine from that kind of thing. And you also just try to listen to your colleagues and hear their stories and see if that sparks anything. So, you know, a lot of collaboration and a lot of looking inward and trying to find like those universal things that that are funny, you know, first and foremost.
Yeah, well, I mean, at the end of the day, they did hire you because of you. So that's your job to bring your personal experiences and
Yeah,
your personality to, let's say, just to the characters in the show. So it's definitely about being organic in that room and, but also, like you said, being able to click with that team because that's also very important.
absolutely. And it's also like, you know, being able to write to a character's voice. Like
Mhm.
Bob Hart's Savvy Show is, I think, such a strong show because the characters are so sharp. Like everyone's got such a unique point of view, a unique way of looking at the world. And I learned a lot from that with my own writing too. I'm making sure like all the characters are as easy to write as the Bob Hart Savvy Show characters were easy. Like for me, they felt not easy is the wrong word, but at least once you're in that scene, you know how Abby Shola is supposed to sound, you know how Bob's supposed to sound, and it really helps. It really helps you like craft a scene. We would do a cool thing on Bob Hurt Savvy Shola, and I don't know how many shows do this, but we would sort of like we would have the outline, and then the whole staff would go off and maybe like write a scene or two, and then we kind of Frankenstein it together.
Yeah.
And you'd be surprised how many times those first drafts sort of worked. Like obviously there have to be changes, but it was crazy. Like it really like you build a strong outline and everybody who knows how to write those characters, and all of a sudden like it's kind of clicking. Like somehow a scene from early in the script and a scene from the end of the script work just because the everyone knew how to write in those voices. So that was cool. That's something that I'll take with me too going forward.
Yeah, you're right. And that's pretty much the goal, to just be able to mesh with that team and to be able to bring out the best out of each other, and also to know exactly like the message that you guys want to bring.
For sure. Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, how do you prepare yourself for being ready for the next project?
Yeah, I think it's keep writing, keep watching stuff too, seeing what's out there,
Yeah.
what the trends are in comedy. Um, and then just, being available to like jump on any show. I'm not, I wouldn't be picky what that next show is. I think any project would be really fulfilling and cool these days to work on. So, yeah, I think it is just like keep writing, especially multis, because if you kind of lose. I think a lot of people focus on single cam development sometimes because maybe there's more buyers for that. But I think
Yeah.
like keeping your multi skills sharp, the jokes, the structure of that, it's a very different kind of writing than single cam, and I like it. It's like a different muscle, which is
Yeah.
always been cool.
Hey, so I know how you got started on Mike and Molly, but how did you end up there on that show?
I'm like Amal. Yeah. So it's kind of a crazy story, really. So when I graduated from college, I went to Ithaca College. I had connected with a buddy of mine who was working as a PA on Mike and Molly at the time. And this is how long ago this was. He texted me. He was like, "Hey, like I think we're hiring another PA.
Yeah.
Fax me your resume." So I like had to seek out. I think I was on some. I was working this. I was working on an indie documentary when I got that text. We're out in the middle of nowhere, and I was like, I need a fax machine. And luckily, like this guy at this hotel was like, yeah, you could use our fax. So I was able to print out my resume, send it in, and I got the interview from that. And then I drove back. I think it was in Palm Springs. I like drove back for the interview, and I interviewed there, and yeah, I got that job as an office PA, which was awesome. And yeah, that's how that started. But yeah, all
That
thanks
really
to the
did.
fax.
That really did jumpstart like your whole career, which is great.
Yeah,
And I've been lucky to see it all happen too. So that's really good. Congratulations.
thanks, Hugo. You too, man. I mean, it's all I we should talk about, we how we met on Mike and Molly. Like
Yeah.
I would think I think the first year I was a PA, my job was just to like stand in the back by Crafty and make sure nobody spoke.
Yeah, I do.
And
Yeah.
then like you were back there and we would just like hang out and talk even though we weren't
We're
supposed to,
talking baseball, and then they're like, "Hey, quiet back here. We're
Yeah.
shooting."
Yeah, or like it's October, we're talking baseball.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
Well, I did want to ask you this question about if you were to do it all over again, what advice would you give yourself?
That's a good question too. Man, I think that I would have been, yeah, I think I probably just would have been more open to the work I was doing in multis at the time. Like I almost wish I knew sooner that I liked multis, and I was like
Yeah.
almost closing myself off to that reality because I wanted to do this other kind of writing. And like I'm realizing now there's no like comedy writers can write drama, drama writers can write comedy. And it was kind of an old school way of thinking that I think would have been helpful to know at that time. But you know what? And I think this is advice just for like anybody coming into the industry now is just like take whatever job you can get really because they're getting fewer, but also like go all in on that job. Just see
Yeah.
like if it feels right to you, even though it's maybe not like what you perfectly envisioned. Because at the end of the day, like I'm so glad that I got that job on Mike and Molly all those years ago. So
Right.
I guess I probably have something better, but that's what I got
No, I
right
mean
now.
that's great. I mean, it's honestly, it's like there's no real small jobs, and also if you do get fortunate to get on a show, you have to make the most of it. I mean, for
Yeah.
me, I always wanted to make sure that they were able to see my work ethic, and I tried to stand out however I could.
Hmm.
Luckily, I did get Melissa McCarthy's attention, and she was able to pull me to her projects, and that's what just jump started my career path. But only because I was vocal, and only because I used that position to be able to connect with as many people as I could.
Yeah, I think honestly, you know what my advice to you to myself is be more like Hugo was back then. Be more like social with like everybody. I think I was a little bit like in my bubble, a little
Sure.
bit focused on the job or just focused on, you know,
Yeah.
my own writing. I think especially when I was a PA at that time.
Yeah.
Um, but the Mike and Molly was an interesting show because it was kind of the tale of two shows. It was very
Right.
different for the first few years. So it was harder to be like you were
Mhm.
early on. Like you were really brave back then to be as open and social as you were.
Well, honestly, it was the only show that really allowed me to be that way because a lot of the times I found myself being told about how etiquette was on stage. And
Yeah.
that show, they brought that side out of me. I mean, the first guy to welcome me specifically was like Billy Gardell, the star of the show.
Yeah.
So when a guy like that is just really genuinely interested in you and your story and how you're part of the team, it makes you want to be your authentic self and you're curious about everybody else as well.
Exactly. And you know what? Bob Hart's Show was another Billy Gardell show. And I honestly can't say enough good things about Billy. He's the
Yeah,
friendliest guy. He's so supportive. And
yeah,
he's somebody who saw, he knows you from back then. He knew me back then being a PA. And then now I was writing on that show. He was so like genuinely happy for me and proud of me. And
good.
like, that's rare. That's really rare. And Melissa back then too, like she was so sweet to everybody, all the
Yeah,
PAs, everybody, um, everybody working at any stage of the production. And
true.
that was really a huge culture vibe of the
Yeah,
show. That's why I think that's why people th are so. I'm sure you've had a lot of Mike and Molly people on this.
yes,
Everyone, I'm sure, feels the same way about that era. And I think like we're all kind of like still in the industry in a lot of ways because of the good experience we had on that. I'm sure there are people that had the opposite experience on a show and got like so burnt out from
yeah.
doing that work. So I'm really grateful for that.
Well, no, I mean my a lot of my lifelong friends I got from that show.
Yeah.
And it's like every time I see somebody on a new show that was a Mike and Molly crew member, like you automatically want to start talking about those days and just kind of reminisce. But I feel like as well as we all bring that attitude to our projects that we land on, and because we know how meaningful that was for us, and I know I could speak for myself, like I would want to recreate that somehow.
Absolutely. I think about that too. Yeah, like even even on Bob Hart Savvy Show, like it was great to have, Al Higgins, who ran
Yeah.
Mike and Molly in the later years, like also created and ran Bob Hart Savvy Show, and like the culture came with him.
Yeah.
Um, and and yeah, like I think that's just the way it should be in the industry. And I think it's happening more and more. I think that
Much
we
more,
came up
yes.
at a time when there was like a break between
Yeah.
from the old ways to the new way. So we just got to carry it forward as we keep moving up in the industry, and I think we will. So,
Yeah. Well, thank you, Dave. I'm really glad that we got this chat. It was very
dude,
cool to catch up with you.
my pleasure, man. Yeah, anytime.
All right. Thanks, Dave.